You ever see a grown woman scream like her soul just left her body? Because I did, when my armored tank rolled over her $250,000 Lamborghini like it was a soda canned in a monster truck show. And the best part? It was legal. Yeah, welcome to my life. I didn't want war with the HOA. I just wanted peace, space, and to be left alone. But some people, especially the Karen in charge of our HOA, don't understand the word boundaries. Her name? Madison Rose Kensington III. No joke. Everyone just called her Maddie. But I called her something else, the gatekeeper. Not because she protected the neighborhood, but because she literally blocked my driveway with her neon pink Lambo anytime she wanted to teach me a lesson. Let me back up a bit. I live on the edge of this fancy gated community, Silver Rock Estates. Technically, I'm not even in the HOA, because my property predates their development. But I share the same road and gate. That's where the trouble started. I'm a retired military engineer. Quiet guy. I keep to myself. After 2 decades of service, I bought a 10-acre lot, built a secure home, and yeah, collected a few toys. One of those toys happens to be an M60 patent tank, fully demilitarized and converted for off-road fun. It's street legal thanks to some creative paperwork and an off-grid DMV clerk who owed me a favor. I kept it tucked in my barn, only taking it out for parades or special events. Nothing crazy. But the tank alone was enough to make Karen's nose crinkle like I'd parked a rotting dumpster in front of her lawn. The first time she knocked on my door, she was dressed like she just walked off the set of Real Housewives. Giant hat, rhinestone sunglasses, and a chihuahua tucked under one arm like a football. "You're lowering the tone of the community," she hissed, before I'd even said hello. "I'm not in your community," I replied. She stared at me like I'd just spoken ancient Greek. Everyone on this road follows the HOA rules. Not me. That's when it began. The citations, the threats, the complaints about unauthorized military vehicles on private roads. Then came the Lambo. At first, I thought it was a joke. I pulled up one day and saw a hot pink Lamborghini Huracan parked sideways across my driveway gate, completely blocking access. No note, no explanation. I called the sheriff's non-emergency line. They said it was a civil matter. I had groceries in the car, a headache, and zero patience. So I waited. 2 hours later, Maddie came strolling down the street in heels, so high they should have come with a warning label. "Oops," she said, sipping an iced latte. "I guess I parked too close." I told her if she did it again, she'd regret it. Big mistake. She started doing it weekly. Sometimes she'd even leave the car overnight, claiming she had a right to regulate the shared roadway. I offered to install separate gates. She said that would be an eyesore. Meanwhile, I was building up a fuse the size of a fuel tanker. The final straw came one Saturday morning. I was prepping to haul supplies for a local veteran memorial event. I went to open my gate, and there it was. Her car. Again. But this time, she chained it to my gate. With a bike lock. Like that would stop me. I called her. She sent it to voicemail. I texted. She replied. "Try getting past me now, tank boy." Smiling face with smiling eyes. I don't know what snapped first, my patience, or the part of my brain that says, don't crush luxury sports cars. Because this time, I didn't wait. I walked to the barn, unlocked the steel door, and fired up the beast. The M60 roared to life, like a prehistoric dragon waking from a nap. Diesel smoke curled into the air. The sound alone probably triggered a dozen HOA bylaws. Neighbors peeked out of windows. One guy actually pulled out a lawn chair. I eased the tank forward, one thunderous tread after another, and stopped inches from her Lambo's bumper. Then I hit the intercom mic. "Move your car, Madison," I said loud enough for the whole street to hear. Nothing. So I drove forward. Slow. Deliberate. The metal shrieked and popped as the Lambo folded like origami under a hydraulic press. Her engine block exploded like a soda can. The windshield cracked like spiderwebs. The rear wing snapped clean off and flew 20 feet through the air. People screamed. A kid dropped his juice box. Madison came running, still in a robe and curlers. "Are you crazy? That's a $250,000 car." I shut the tank off, popped the hatch, and stood up calmly. You shouldn't have chained it to my gate." Madison didn't just scream. She wailed like her dog just got drafted. Her mascara was streaking down her cheeks, curlers bouncing as she stomped toward the crushed remains of her beloved pink Lamborghini. "You're done. I'm calling the police, the HOA, the mayor, everybody." I just stood there on top of her wreckage, arms crossed like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Call whoever you like, Karen, but you parked it on my gate. That's trespassing." Within minutes, red and blue lights painted the neighborhood. Sheriff's deputies pulled up, 2 cars deep, lights flashing, and one young guy stepped out, visibly trying not to laugh. "Sir," he said, walking toward the tank, "I have to ask, did you really run over this car?" I nodded. "Yes, sir." "And why?" I pointed to the busted gate and the dangling chain still connected to what was left of her Lambo. "Because she illegally blocked my driveway, again, and chained it shut." The deputy turned toward Madison, who was now dramatically clutching her neck like she was about to faint. "He murdered my car." "Ma'am, did you chain your vehicle to this man's gate?" "I was enforcing community access. He's a danger with that war machine." The deputy blinked. "Ma'am, he's not part of your HOA. He lives on private land. You have zero jurisdiction over this driveway." She gasped like she'd just been slapped with reality. What she didn't realize yet was that half the neighborhood had caught it on camera. Phones were out. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. Within hours, videos were circulating with titles like, "HOA Karen gets tanked, and he flattened her Lambo." And I wasn't done yet. You'd think having her car crushed by a tank would have been the end of her tantrum career. Nope. Madison doubled down. The next morning, I woke up to something worse. An emergency HOA meeting, held right outside my property line. Lawn chairs, clipboards. I swear someone even brought a projector. She stood at the front, still in designer shades, dramatically holding a picture of the Lambo wreckage. "This man is a danger to all of us. A tank. In our community? What's next, landmines? A missile silo?" Someone in the back mumbled. "He's not even in the HOA. Irrelevant," she snapped. "We must protect our values." Her plan? A petition to have my tank forcibly removed and my access road reclassified so the HOA could extend their control. But here's the thing. This wasn't just a homeowner being annoying anymore. She was trying to abuse legal loopholes to control land she didn't own. So I called up someone she never expected, my wife. And not just because I love her. My wife, Michelle, she's the newly appointed police chief of the county. When she arrived in uniform that afternoon, HOA jaws dropped so hard you'd think gravity tripled. She stepped out of her cruiser, sunglasses on, hand on her belt. "Madison, you're on thin legal ice." Madison stammered. "Oh, you're with him?" Michelle nodded. "Married 10 years. And you just tried to illegally seize his road. That's attempted zoning fraud." Madison's mouth hung open, but no sound came out. That was the first time I saw her shut up mid-sentence. That night, I kicked back with a cold drink while Michelle reviewed legal documents. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications were blowing up, somehow. The video of the tank crushing the Lambo hit 2.4 million views overnight. Local news picked it up. Then national. I even saw a reaction video where a former tank operator said, "That's the smoothest roll I've ever seen. 10/10 tank work." But the real kicker? A celebrity influencer commented, "I'd pay to drive that tank over a Ferrari." Icon. Meanwhile, Madison was fuming. She filed a civil suit claiming emotional damages and malicious destruction of property. But get this, her own Lambo had expired registration and had been illegally parked multiple times. My lawyer was practically giggling when he got the case. Michelle pulled public records, and it turned out Madison wasn't even the full owner of her house. Her husband's name was on everything. Her little power trip, built on sand. Still, I didn't want to just win the case. I wanted to end the madness once and for all. So I made a call. I called a county planning board member I knew from a veterans outreach program. Told him everything. How the HOA was trying to claim land they didn't own. How they allowed Madison to weaponize her position. And how they were planning to illegally rezone my access road. He sighed. "We've had complaints about Silver Rock before. But this This is different. 2 weeks later, a formal investigation into the HOA was launched. The county ordered a halt on all rezoning activity and froze HOA authority outside their legal boundary. But it gets better. During the investigation, they uncovered misused funds, fake maintenance fees, and, cherry on top, Madison had been pocketing fines from homeowners and falsifying records to hide it. Suddenly, no one in Silver Rock was Team Madison anymore. People who used to glare at me while walking their golden retrievers now waved as they passed my property. One even yelled, "Drive safe, Commander," with a salute. Funny how quickly things change when the truth rolls in like a 50-ton tank. Most people would have backed down after public humiliation, a tank car, and a county investigation. But not Madison. She was the kind of person who thought the rules were only for other people. So what did she do? She faked a security concern letter to the county, claiming my tank was a weaponized threat to the community and needed to be forcibly impounded. She even submitted photos, one of me fueling the tank, completely legal, and one photoshopped image of it with a rocket launcher attached. Seriously, she went that far. The county wasn't buying it, but while they sorted out, guess what showed up on my property? A flatbed tow truck. I walked outside to see a very confused driver scratching his head while trying to figure out how to even start a 50-ton armored vehicle. "Sir, I was just told to come remove it. Got paperwork from a Ms. Kensington." I showed him my own paperwork, along with a warning from the sheriff's office about fake towing orders. "Wouldn't touch it even if I could," the guy muttered, snapping a photo of the tank and walking off. That woman's crazy. That was Madison's final play, and it failed. Badly. So, I decided to have a little fun. The next Sunday was the town's Freedom Parade, something I usually drove in with my Army buddies. This time, I invited the whole neighborhood. Michelle rode shotgun in full uniform. I had a banner on the side of the tank that read, "Thank you to the HOA for all the motivation." People cheered. Cameras flashed. Kids waved flags. Even the mayor gave me a thumbs up. But the best part? We drove right past Madison's front yard. She stood there in a robe, arms folded, lips tighter than a sealed Ziploc. Her new ride, a leased Lexus, sat behind her like it was afraid to be too close. Someone from the crowd yelled, "Where's your Lambo, Karen?" She stormed back inside. After that parade, HOA members started resigning. 5 in total stepped down over the next week, and the community pushed for a full leadership audit. Madison's empire? Cracking like the carbon fiber on her crushed sports car. A few days later, I got a knock on the door. It was Greg, from down the street. One of those quiet, flannel-wearing dads who always waved but never got involved in drama. "I got something to show you," he said, holding a flash drive. Turns out, Greg had been documenting everything. HOA overreach, fake fines, forced landscaping demands, even Madison shouting at delivery drivers. He had recordings, scanned documents, and emails she'd sent from her personal account posing as legal counsel. "I was waiting for the right time," he said. "You just gave us the perfect excuse." We got to work. Michelle helped organize everything into a formal complaint packet. Soon, a small group of neighbors formed a kind of resistance committee. They called themselves the Free Lot Alliance. Yeah, dramatic, but hey, it fit. We set up a website, shared our side of the story, and gave homeowners a way to anonymously share their own experiences. The result? A storm of support, and a full community vote was announced. It was time to decide Madison's fate. The HOA meeting was packed. Standing room only. People who hadn't shown up to meetings in 5 years were suddenly front row center, with printed receipts, screenshots, and fire in their eyes. Madison tried to open the meeting with her usual condescending tone, but it didn't fly this time. One guy raised his hand and said, "Before we begin, can we address the elephant in the room? Or should I say the tank?" Everyone laughed. Madison's face turned crimson. The board reviewed Greg's flash drive. Michelle read aloud the zoning fraud attempts, the false towing order, and the harassment complaints. Madison tried to object until they played a recording of her screaming, "I don't care what's legal. I run this street." Oof. The vote was simple. Remove Madison from the HOA board, yes or no. Final tally? 84-3. Even her best friend voted yes. Brutal. Madison stormed out of the room without a word. For the first time since this whole mess started, the room felt calm. But this wasn't over for me yet. A week later, while mowing the back lot, I spotted a black SUV pulling up my gravel road. Government plates. Out stepped a man in a gray suit and mirrored glasses. "Mr. Carter?" he asked. "Yeah. Who's asking?" He showed me a badge, Department of Defense. "Not local. Not state. I'm here about the tank," he said flatly. For a second, I thought Madison had somehow escalated this to the Pentagon. But then he added, "Relax. Not here to seize it. We just want to talk." Apparently, someone from D.C. had seen the viral clip, and instead of being angry, they were impressed. "I'm here on behalf of the Historical Armored Vehicle Education Program. We'd like to partner with you for public demos and training events. You'd keep the tank. We fund the appearances." I almost laughed. Madison tried to get my tank impounded, and now the U.S. government wanted to pay me to drive it around. Sometimes, karma doesn't just roll over the enemy, it crushes them. I agreed to the DoD program the next day. They sent over paperwork, branded decals, and even fuel reimbursement for my educational appearances. Within a week, my tank was no longer just a personal toy. It was a federally recognized demonstration vehicle. I don't think Madison could have possibly predicted that her tantrum would land me a side gig with government backing. The same tank she tried to ban was now being celebrated as a piece of American history. Funny how that works. But just when I thought things had finally calmed down, I got a certified letter. Not from Madison, from her husband's divorce attorney. Apparently, he had finally had enough of the drama, the lawsuits, the Lambo debt, and the HOA power tripping. He was filing for divorce, and the letter included a subpoena asking for footage of the Lambo incident as evidence of her erratic behavior. I handed over everything. Dash cam, security cams, witness statements, and I'm not proud to say I smiled just a little too hard while doing it. Turns out Madison had been funneling community funds into her own beautification projects and using the HOA as a personal piggy bank. Her husband's legal team planned to go scorched earth. Meanwhile, Silver Rock's new HOA president, Greg, invited me to speak at the first community-wide meeting under the new leadership. "Please," he said, "come with the tank." When I rolled up to the meeting in full gear with Michelle by my side, people actually clapped. I wasn't used to that. Greg handed me the mic. I kept it short. "Just be decent to each other. And don't park a Lamborghini in front of a gate if you're not ready for what's behind it." Laughter. Cheers. And from that moment forward, nobody in Silver Rock ever questioned whether I belonged on that road again. But peace didn't last long. 2 months later, I noticed a brand new private security vehicle parked at the edge of the neighborhood. Black SUV. Unmarked. Same spot every morning. Every evening. Watching. At first, I thought it might be HOA surveillance again, but Madison was long gone. Rumor had it she moved to Arizona after the divorce and was working in luxury real estate. But this wasn't her style. This was colder, cleaner, professional. I had cameras running 24/7. So when I saw the SUV pull up near my mailbox at 2 a.m. and a man stepped out wearing tactical boots, I knew something was off. I didn't call the sheriff. I called Michelle. She was on scene in 10 minutes, armed, uniformed, and just as suspicious. When she approached the vehicle, the driver peeled out and vanished down the county road. We reviewed the footage and got a plate number. Rental car from out of state. Nothing came up. No claims, no reports, no connection to any open investigation. But the strange thing? That mailbox. It wasn't just a regular mailbox. I'd recently installed a motion-triggered license plate scanner inside it. Part of a veteran security prototype I'd been helping beta test for a federal contractor. The scan logged 2 other cars in the last month with similar patterns. Same time, same route, and all from the same rental company. Someone was watching me. I'd gone from neighborhood nuisance to public face of federal vehicle education, and apparently, that put me on someone's radar. I called my contact at the DoD, gave them the plate numbers. Within a few hours, He called me back with a voice lower than usual. "Where'd you get these plates?" he asked. "Off a car casing my property." He was quiet for a moment. "Those belong to an unlisted contractor tied to a private defense firm with a history of sketchy surveillance jobs. I wouldn't engage. Let us handle it." But that's not who I am, especially not after Madison. I wasn't about to get bullied again. Michelle and I set up motion lights, backup cams, and a silent perimeter alarm that pinged directly to my phone. And just 2 nights later, they came back. This time, they didn't know I'd be waiting inside the tank. It was just after 2:17 a.m. when the silent alarm tripped. No headlights, no engine noise, just a faint crunch of gravel and the infrared alert on my screen flashing. Driveway perimeter breach. I was already inside the tank, tucked in with night vision engaged. Michelle was positioned in the main house, ready to call backup if needed. We didn't know who these people were, or what they wanted, but I knew one thing. They weren't random. A shadow moved along the tree line. Then another. 2 figures. Tactical posture. One crouched near the camera post at the edge of the drive. The other moved closer to the barn. I flicked a switch. The tank roared to life, engine growling like thunder from underground. Spotlights blasted the field. A siren kicked on. The figures froze like deer. "This is private property," I yelled through the PA system. "You have 10 seconds to leave before law enforcement arrives." They bolted. Fast. One tripped over the gravel berm I'd raised that morning, crumpled hard, but still managed to limp off. Their SUV peeled out seconds later, tires shrieking down the road. I didn't chase. I let the cameras do their job. Michelle was already outside with her service, weapon holstered, and a flashlight in hand. She helped me out of the tank, eyes locked on the trail of footprints disappearing into the trees. "Not amateurs," she muttered. They knew what to avoid. Almost. We gathered the footage, snapped photos of boot prints, and called my DOD contact again. This time, he sounded less professional. "You're officially on a list now," he said. "Someone flagged your tank's viral video to a private firm that used to contract for us. They've gone independent. Security provocateurs. Some think they're building a profile for overseas buyers." Buyers? You mean they're trying to steal my tank? Or recruit you? Either way, they're crossing a line. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, but because my brain was moving faster than any engine. If someone thought they could scare me off my own land, they clearly hadn't done their homework. 2 days later, I received a package. No return label. Just a matte black envelope inside, sealed with wax. Classy. Weirdly threatening. Inside was a photo, me, standing outside the tank, waving at the parade. But it wasn't taken from the crowd. It was taken from a rooftop. There was also a card, no name, just one line written in smooth, expensive ink. "Still driving over obstacles. Let's talk business." Michelle saw it and immediately went into lockdown mode. We're being watched. High-level surveillance, possibly recruitment, or a test. We filed a report, but nothing came of it. No fingerprints. No digital trail. But I had a feeling whoever sent it wasn't done, and they were trying to see what kind of man I was. So I made a decision. If they wanted to see how I handled pressure, I'd give them a show. I moved the tank onto the front field, right where the crushed Lambo used to be. Made it obvious. Put a flag on top. Left it visible from the road. Then I waited. The next night, someone tried again. But this time, I was not alone, because Michelle called in a favor from her former unit. 3 off-duty tactical officers showed up, no questions asked. One perched on my roof with night optics. Another covered the barn. The third sat quietly in my workshop with a laptop feeding live camera footage to his screen. We called it Operation Curb Stomp. At 2:42 a.m., just like before, a black SUV rolled up. Same timing, same pattern. Only this time, they didn't get 10 seconds. They barely got 3. Flashbangs lit the sky as the SUV doors opened. The team moved fast. Silent takedown. 2 suspects cuffed. One tackled trying to run toward the creek. It was over in under a minute. Sheriffs arrived to clean up. The SUV was impounded. Phones confiscated. Hard drives found under a hidden panel in the trunk. One of the guys muttered, "You're lucky this wasn't DC intel work. You just hit a private Black Ops scout." Turns out, I wasn't just a homeowner anymore. I was a target in a private defense firm's recruitment stunt, and crushing that Lambo had made me a viral symbol of tactical resolve. I didn't know whether to laugh or check under my bed. The next day, my DoD contact called again. "Want to make this official?" "What do you mean?" "We're offering you a contract. Keep the tank. Keep the demos. But we'd like you to join a new public engagement program. Call it Patriot Presence." I stared at the phone. This all started because one woman couldn't handle a no parking sign. Now I was looking at a government-backed role as a symbol of rural strength and American engineering. Funny how things roll. I accepted the offer, not because I wanted the spotlight, but because it gave me control, legal standing, federal protection, and a louder voice than any HOA president could ever dream of. They gave me a call sign, iron back. A perfect match for a guy who refused to bend, even when pushed by Karen-shaped wrecking balls. The program kicked off fast. Within weeks, I was appearing at veteran events, county fairs, historical displays, rolling the tank through mud and grass while crowds roared. Kids took selfies. Parents asked questions. Even a few local officials asked if I offered community response training. All of it 100% legal and paid. One afternoon, while loading the tank for a Veterans Day event, Greg showed up with a thermos of coffee and a wide grin. "You know Madison's TikTok page?" he asked. "No, but I can guess." She started posting wellness content from Arizona, tried rebranding herself as an empowerment coach. One of her videos went viral again. You can guess why. He handed me his phone. It was a stitched video. Her clip about taking control of your life was immediately followed by footage of my tank flattening her Lambo, again, and a voiceover yelling, "Guess she couldn't control this." 10 million views. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the tread. That night, as Michelle and I sat on the porch sipping tea, the sky started to fade gold. The tank stood beside us like a steel guardian. "I never thought crushing a sports car would change our lives," she said. "Me neither," I replied. "But I'm glad I didn't back down." Because that's the real lesson here. This wasn't just about a car, or a gate, or an HOA. It was about people who think they're above consequence, who use fear, fake authority, or money to trample over others. Sometimes they win, but sometimes they park in front of the wrong gate. And sometimes the quiet guy with the tools and the tank, he rolls over everything standing in his way. I thought the story had finally settled, that maybe, just maybe, the saga was over. But chaos has a funny way of circling back, especially when your face is all over the internet riding a tank like it's the 4th of July. A week after the video with the stitched Madison meltdown went viral, I got a phone call. Unlisted number. I let it ring to voicemail, but then it rang again, and again. Eventually, I answered. A woman's voice came through, calm, professional, too smooth to be random. "Mr. Carter, this is Amanda Langston. I represent a media group working on a new docu-series about real-world land disputes and civilian pushback against overreach. Your tank story is trending worldwide. We'd like to fly a crew out and film everything." Now, I'm no media guy, but Michelle and I had talked about getting ahead of the story, especially with all the fake versions popping up online. So we agreed. But on one condition, they don't cut it to make me look like the villain. They flew in 2 weeks later. Drone crew, sound guy, interviewer, the whole circus. Spent 3 days filming on my land, interviewing neighbors, and, of course, getting every possible angle of the tank. The producers were stunned when they found out about the attempted recruitment by a shady contractor and the 2 a.m. ambush. "You can't make this up," one of them whispered while reviewing the footage of the takedown. "Yeah, tell that to my cracked mailbox." But then something strange happened. On the last day of filming, one of the crew guys, quiet kid named Theo, came over during a break. "You ever think Madison wasn't working alone?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "She wasn't the only HOA rep filing weird requests. I checked your county records last night. There's another name that keeps popping up on zoning proposals and commercial access permits. Not hers. A guy named Leonard Drew." I didn't recognize the name, but Theo pulled up a photo on his phone. Middle-aged man, clean-cut, and no joke, standing right behind Madison at that first HOA ambush meeting where she tried to oust me publicly. He never said a word, never approached me, just stood there, arms folded, watching. Theo said he's been listed on 5 different HOA boards in 3 states over the last 10 years. Always disappears after lawsuits or scandal. Professional HOA fixer, Theo muttered. They exist. People who jump from community to community and clean up problems. Quietly. Legally. Or not. That night, I couldn't shake the image of that guy just standing there. Not reacting. Not getting involved. Just observing. I started digging. Turns out Leonard Drew was more than just a fixer. He was the former director of a private land use lobbying group, one that was dissolved after whistleblowers exposed shady property takeovers. They'd fund HOA leaders, manipulate board elections, and then buy up devalued properties for pennies once residents got fed up and moved out. Sound familiar? The deeper I dug, the more it started to make sense. Madison wasn't just a power-hungry Karen. She was likely being fed ideas, maybe even paid. I showed everything to Michelle, and she wasted no time. Next morning, she sent an official inquiry through her department and reached out to a state investigator she knew from her academy days. If this guy is active again, she said, we're not the only ones he's targeted. Within 48 hours, we got a hit. A nearly identical case, different state, same playbook. HOA drama, sudden rezoning attempts, forged complaints, and a mysterious consultant named Drew in the background. Now it wasn't just about my tank. It was about exposing a system built to harass homeowners into surrendering land through intimidation and legal traps. The media crew caught wind and extended their stay. Suddenly, this wasn't just a revenge story. It was turning into a national investigation, and I was dead center. The next morning, someone left a manila envelope taped to my barn door. No return address. Inside were aerial surveillance photos of my house, taken with the high-grade drone. Date stamped. Some from over a month ago. There was also a note. You're getting too loud. Stop before this gets ugly. Michelle's face darkened when she read it. We both knew what this meant. Someone wanted to shut us down. But they clearly forgot one thing. We had a tank. And we weren't afraid to roll right through whatever came next. Michelle called in everything she could legally pull. Drones, deputies, and a favor from a cybercrimes investigator she once helped during a trafficking case. Within hours, we had a list of drone serial numbers used within a 2-mile radius of our property in the last 60 days. One of them was registered to a shell company in Nevada. The same shell company linked to Leonard Drew. Coincidence? I doubt it. That night, we doubled security. I parked the tank nose first at the end of the driveway, dead center of the gate, like a metal warning sign. Michelle set up motion sensors across the entire east tree lane. Greg loaned us his trail cams and his brother, an ex-park ranger who could move quieter than a ghost. We weren't just watching anymore. We were hunting back. 2 nights later, 3:08 a.m., the alarm tripped again. This time from the roof of the barn. Michelle was already out the door. I followed with a flashlight and my phone recording. We found a man, not masked, but dressed in black, holding a laptop and surrounded by small antenna gear. He tried to run but didn't get far. Our guy, the park ranger, tackled him into a hay bale like it was football practice. Turns out, he wasn't a local. He was a tech specialist hired through a contracting platform, paid in crypto. Instructions were sent through encrypted messaging apps. He told the sheriff. I didn't even know whose property this was. I was just told to intercept and wipe all surveillance nodes on site. Intercept and wipe? That meant someone knew about our recordings, our footage, our proof. They were trying to erase it before we went public. That's when I knew this wasn't just intimidation anymore. It was sabotage. The media crew went dark for 2 days. Turned out their hotel rooms were broken into. Laptops were stolen. Backups too. But they didn't know I'd had my footage uploaded offsite every night. Redundant. Remote. Untouchable. I called Amanda, the producer. I've still got all, I said. There was a pause. Then we go bigger, she said. We're talking national release. news networks, a full expose on HOA corruption and private land seizure rings. If they want to play dirty, let's show them we can play smarter. We set a date. 3 weeks from that call, a full documentary was scheduled to drop. Trailers, press, public statement from Michelle's department, even a special segment with Greg, now a local hero in his own right. But the night before the launch, our power went out. Not just our house, the entire block. One massive outage, then a fire. Not near the tank, not near the barn, near the server shed, the one connected to my uplink, where I backed up every single file. I grabbed the fire extinguisher. Michelle hit the emergency disconnect. Greg ran over with 2 buckets and his garden hose. It took 30 minutes, but we put it out. Burned cables, melted drives, surveillance box fried. But one thing survived. The tiny hidden SSD Michelle kept inside the fake mailbox camera, the one nobody else knew existed. She handed it to me, still warm, but intact. "Still want to go public?" she asked. I looked around at the blackened grass, the sparks on the panel, the smoke. "No," I said. "I want to go louder." We relocated all backups to a cloud server operated by one of Michelle's federal contacts. Not the usual suspects. This was deeper. Government encrypted, off-grid, and practically invisible. I didn't just want this story out anymore. I wanted it to land like a meteor. So Amanda's crew edited a trailer using clips from the SSD, drone shots of the tank, footage of the black SUVs, and a few intense night scenes, including the tech guy we caught in the barn. Her editor added audio of Madison screaming about owning the street from our first HOA encounter. They titled it, "Tread Marks: How One Man Crushed an HOA and Exposed a National Land Grab." When it dropped on YouTube as a teaser, it hit 1 million views in 9 hours. The comments exploded. "Is this real? This guy's a legend. HOA Karen picked the wrong neighbor. Bro parked a tank on her dreams." But attention came with consequences. 2 days later, Greg got a visit from a man in a gray suit pretending to be from the Silver Rock Development Review Board. Thing is, Silver Rock doesn't have one. Never did. When Greg asked for ID, the man left. Fast. Then came the letter. Typed. No return address. It simply read, "The next time you post about us, it'll be the last time you post anything." We handed it over to the sheriff. He didn't blink. "We've seen 3 more of these in the last month," he said. "Different addresses. Same font. Same phrasing." Michelle was done playing defense. She made a few calls. And 3 days later, a quiet black van parked on the edge of my property. Out stepped a 4-person DHS cyber task force. Not loud, not flashy, just ready. They went straight to work, hardwiring, sweeping, shielding every electronic footprint we had. We gave them coffee and access to everything. One of them, a tall guy named Cyrus, shook my hand and said, "You're lucky. Most people don't see it coming until they've lost everything." I pointed to the burned-out server shed. "We saw it. Still here." Cyrus nodded. "Then let's make sure it stays that way." The night before the full documentary release, the DHS crew set up a live digital perimeter, logging every IP pinging our upload link. They caught 47 attempts in 1 hour. 3 traced back to overseas servers. 2 traced right back to Arizona. Michelle stared at the screen. "Madison, thinks she's still involved. If she's not, someone's still bankrolling the cleanup effort, and they're not done." We pushed the video live at exactly noon the next day. YouTube, X, Telegram, Rumble, Reddit, everywhere. Within 24 hours, it hit 12.7 million views. Mainstream news picked it up. A whistleblower from another HOA came forward in a live interview, confirming everything. A state senator called for an emergency oversight panel. By the 48-hour mark, someone filed a civil suit against Drew's Shell Company. And by hour 72, an arrest warrant was issued, not for me, but for Leonard Drew. Fraud, racketeering, cyber sabotage, illegal property coercion. The takedown had begun, but I wasn't celebrating yet, because the bigger the fall, the louder the retaliation. We were ready for the storm, but it didn't come as noise. It came as silence. For 3 straight days, nothing happened. No cars, no drones, no letters, no late-night alarms. And then, one evening, just before sundown, Michelle found tire tracks. Fresh ones, deep, from a heavy vehicle. But not just any vehicle. A tank transporter. The tire tracks circled near the back edge of my property, where the cameras didn't reach. Too deep for a truck, too heavy for a normal vehicle. Michelle knelt beside one of the ruts. Tank hauler. Looks recent, maybe 2 hours old. But my tank hadn't moved, which meant someone else brought in a vehicle capable of moving something like it. I ran to the barn, heart hammering. My tank was still there, but something felt wrong. The security lights on the right side had been cut, clean wire snip. Someone had tried to disable the cameras, but gave up halfway through. We ran a quick diagnostic on the tank systems. Everything was untouched, except the ignition panel. There were fresh smudges around the code entry. They tried to start it. Whoever they were, they came for the tank. And when they couldn't hotwire it, they left. But it meant they were desperate now. Sloppy. Rushed. Whoever backed Drew was still out there. And they wanted to erase everything. My platform, my machine, my message. Too bad for them. Michelle had already relocated the tank's backup components. The firewalls were hardened. The story was public. The nation was watching. The next day, a news crew flew in for a live special on the homeowner who fought back. They set up right on the lawn where the Lambo had once died a brutal, metallic death. As I stood beside the tank, answering questions about land rights, rogue HOAs, and private enforcement squads, I spotted a black SUV just beyond the tree lane. Parked. Not moving. Michelle noticed too. She walked straight toward it. Cool as ice. By the time she got there, it was gone. But not before we got the plate number. Traced to a dissolved contractor out of Nevada. One of Drew's known old aliases. A ghost. But now we had proof that the network went deeper. That night, we hosted a neighborhood cookout. The same street where Madison once marched up in heels and issued citations was now packed with lawn chairs, lemonade, and laughter. Greg gave a toast. To the tank, the truth, and neighbors who don't back down. People cheered. And for the first time since this started, I felt at peace. But I know this story's going to echo. Because there are hundreds, maybe thousands of neighborhoods dealing with the same hidden rot, just waiting for someone to say enough. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt silenced, bullied, or pushed out by people hiding behind fake authority, remember this. Sometimes justice doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it crushes the front end of a Lamborghini and keeps on rolling. If that kind of justice made you smile today, then do me a favor. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share this story with someone who's ready to fight back. Because this wasn't just a story. It was a warning and a promise. We're just getting started.